Hello everyone, I'm Naman and I'm making this video to explain some recent enhancements that we're going to make in the curriculum for intermediate and advanced students of Scalar Academy. Very recently, we had announced similar changes for the beginner module as well, and today we are announcing the same for intermediate and advanced curriculum. Before I deep dive into the enhancements that we're going to make, let me first talk about why we are going to make these changes. Our philosophy at Scalar is that we as a company are going to succeed if our students succeed and they get the career outcomes they desired. And hence, how we have designed our curriculum is to be able to enable them to secure the jobs at the top tech companies and also be able to perform better at their jobs. To do the same, so as to enable our students to achieve the same, we need to ensure two things. The very first thing that we need to ensure is that our students get placement ready as early as possible. For this, the experience of the students need to be personalized for their current level. Not everyone needs the same things to be able to do better in the interviews. Some people need to be better in LLD and design concepts, whereas some people need to have a lot of projects in their resume so as to be able to secure those jobs. Also, so that the people who are advanced, they should not get underwhelmed by studying with the people who are probably not that advanced, who are probably learning the things for the first time. Similarly, for the people who are beginner, they should not get overwhelmed by learning with the people who are already knowing these things. So ideally, we try to ensure that every Scalar student becomes placement ready in around 8 months since the start of the course. So that's the very first thing we need to ensure, that every Scalar student gets ready to be able to clear interviews and becomes placement ready in around 8 months from the start of their course, depending upon what their current level is. The second thing that we need to ensure is that every student gets through everything that the Scalar program has to offer. While not everything might be needed for them to be able to clear the interviews or to be able to get the placement outcomes, but each and everything that is a part of the Scalar curriculum is going to help them be a better engineer, is going to help them perform better at their job. And the Scalar brand is only going to thrive if not only you are able to clear the interviews and get to the companies that you dream for, but you also perform better there, such that those companies come directly again to us to hire more such Scalar alumni. Now, to achieve both of these two things, getting people placement ready as early as possible and ensuring that everything goes to the Scalar curriculum, we do as an annual practice a few things. First of all, we talk to our hiring partners as an annual practice and we ask them, what are the things that you ask for in the interviews? What are the things that you look for in the candidates that you hire? And accordingly, as per the learnings that we get from the talks with our Scalar hiring partners, we iterate our curriculum, we make changes to our curriculum so that our curriculum is always up to date with the recent needs of the hiring partners. Other than that, we also talk to our students. We get input from our students on what things are working fine, what things are not working fine, where we can make the changes, where we can make the enhancements. So when we talk to students and hiring partners this time, we got a good amount of learnings. So let me share those learnings with you one by one. Let me start with the learnings that we got from our hiring partners. There were three major learnings that we found based upon their interview process, based upon their requirements. The very first was DSA is very important. Almost every company looks for problem solving skills in their interviews. Almost every company has either an online assessment round or even also has a face to face data structures and algorithms interview. Based upon that, we decided that our DSA curriculum doesn't need much changes. So the DSA curriculum going ahead for the intermediate and advanced students remains as it is. No changes at all. No new addition, no new deletion. Interestingly, we actually observed one thing. When we talk to our hiring partners, that a lot of them conduct online rounds, conduct online hacker rank tests, hacker earth tests before they actually take a student for the face to face round. Interestingly, we also found that even though our students knew the DSA concepts very well, they remembered the concepts of stacks, Steinway programming, graphs, etc., but they were not able to do that well in the online assessment rounds. Primarily because they were not accustomed to the timed environments, to the thrill that comes up in a timed environment that you have 60 minutes, solve these many questions. They often became nervous. That's why, even though nothing has changed in the DSA curriculum, no new class added, no previous class removed, but so as to ensure that our students are able to do well in those online assessments, we have made contests a mandatory part of the Scalar curriculum in the DSA module. Every month, at the same time as your class is scheduled, you will be having a contest which will be testing your knowledge of the DSA concepts that have been covered till that particular time. So Overall, no removal, no addition. In fact, one addition, which is contests now being a part of your curriculum as well, of your core classes, so that you should not miss them. They are mandatory for all of you. They are going to help you do better in the placements that you appear for at the later part of the course. Cool. Now, the second thing that we observed was for intermediate and advanced people, projects are not really that much important. Okay. Why? Because most of the time, intermediate and advanced people already have some work experience. They have already worked upon some projects at the companies that they are working upon. So rather than seeing the projects in the resume for such people, companies often actually drill them on their design skills, both the low level as well as the high level design, but primarily more on the low level design. They ask them advanced questions on the languages that they have worked with. For example, advanced questions on Java, advanced questions on Python, advanced questions on JavaScript. They ask about object-oriented programming. So overall, for intermediate and advanced students, projects are not really that important, but design skills are very, very important. Designs and advanced concepts of languages, SQL, etc., are very, very important. The third observation that we had was that the full stack roles in the industry are almost as common as the backend ones. And unfortunately, our students were struggling to clear those interviews. Talking to the hiring partners, talking to the students, we observed that our curriculum was not able to provide ample depth in the full stack concepts, in the concepts that are important for a full stack engineer. For example, like front end design patterns, front end architecture, front end optimizations, front end specific LLD case studies, front end specific machine coding questions. And for example, the other frameworks like React.js, Express.js, Node.js. So we were facing, unfortunately, multiple interview rejections there. So from hiring partners, overall three observations: DSA very important, projects not really that important, and full stack is as common as backend. Okay. So talking about what learnings we got from our students, we basically had two major pointers. The very first pointer was our computer science module, especially the operating systems and computer networks part of it, was very theoretical, and students wanted to learn these things, but they wanted to learn those practically. I mean, they wanted to see what is the practical importance of that. Where can they see that in their day-to-day lives? Okay, so they were feeling a lot of those particular modules to be theoretical and wanted somehow, if we can mingle them with the projects, etc., that will be better. Okay, and the second thing we observed was in the capstone projects. The students gave a feedback that they were expecting more advanced concepts there. They were expecting much more technical complexity in the projects that we cover, rather than just covering the modules, covering the frameworks, or covering the high level things of them. Okay, so more technical complexity in the projects and less theory, but theory mixed with practicality in the computer science module. So overall, these were the 5 learnings that we got from our hiring partners and the students. Having taken these feedbacks, then taking a step back, thinking what will help our students get the perfect career outcomes, we have enhanced the curriculum. We have made the changes that I'm going to show to you very soon. Before I deep dive into the changes that you can probably see on your screen right now, let me probably take a step back and just quickly summarize those changes for you, so that when I'm going through the curriculum, you can, you can notice those changes already happening. Okay. The very first thing, none of the concepts that we covered in the previous curriculum are removed. Everything that used to be covered in the old curriculum will remain as is. No, nothing changes. In fact, there are a lot of additions that you're going to see in the new curriculum. Okay, first of all, nothing changes at least till DSA, and overall also in the complete curriculum, no concept has been removed. And I'm going to, as I deep dive over the curriculum, I'm going to show that to you there on. Okay, we still cover everything we used to cover earlier. In fact, we have added more concepts. So you're going to see a lot more things on the full stack part, especially getting added. Okay, having said that, while we have not removed anything, but to ensure that the length of the curriculum doesn't increase, because we also have to ensure that almost every Scalar student does get placement ready in almost like 8 months of their start of the course, we have removed some parts, some theoretical parts of the course into recordings. So especially in the computer science fundamentals, you're going to see some part of the operating systems and computer networks theory. For example, what are processes? What are what are the different CPU scheduling algorithms? Some things about OSI model, etc., are a part of theory. They are not important for interviews. And the remaining part of those things, whatever is important, especially for example in computer networks. For example, how does HTTP etc work? We have tried to mix them in the practical parts in LLD, HLD, and the project building module. So do keep a check of that. Nothing will get removed. Do see that when I'm deep diving over the curriculum. Do see the additions of the full stack module as well, and also do see how computer network concepts etc we have mixed with the more practical aspects. For example, with LLD, HLD, as well as project building. Okay. Yes, some parts of that will be removed to recording so as to ensure that nothing, I mean, so that the curriculum doesn't become so much bigger that you become placement ready later. But whatever concept has been moved to recording is only because that doesn't have much significance for your interviews, etc. Okay. Second change. Second change is that we have added a track that is focused on full stack development in the LLD module as well as in the capstone project module. Earlier, in the LLD module, there was one track that was there for everyone, be it a beginner, sorry, be it a backend specific person, be it a full stack specific person. Now there are going to be two tracks. One, there's going to be a full stack track, another, there's going to be a backend track. The full stack track will be focusing on concepts like front end optimizations, front end architecture, front end specific LLD case studies, your Node.js, your Express.js, your MongoDB. Okay. And by the way, don't worry on whether you should choose backend or full stack. Before that particular split comes up, before that track is going to start, we're going to conduct an AMA session. We're going to conduct an Ask Me Anything session where we will counsel the students on which track should a particular person choose. Okay. Which kind of people should go for backend track, which kind of people should go for full stack track. So don't worry about that. Okay. Third change, the project building module also has two tracks now. There's going to be one backend track, there's going to be one full stack track. And we have upgraded that module massively to focus on projects that are more technically comprehensive. You will be building a capstone project that is going to be technically comprehensive. For example, something like an e-commerce application that includes payment, microservices, Dockerization, pagination in the API services, authentication, etc. for backend. Something like, for example, a Google Sheet of an Google Sheet application, Google Sheet front end, which is able to process like 1 million rows, do filtering, etc. on that for full stack. Okay. So much more technically comprehensive project will be added in the project building module. But to enable us to do that, we have split that module also into two tracks. On both of the tracks, there will be a very technically comprehensive project that is specific to that module that will be done. The last thing, while a student for both LLD and project building will be able to do only one of the tracks live, they will be able to get the recordings of the other one as soon as their course completes. So the recording of the other track will be given to them, but only after the course completes, because we don't want you to distract yourself. Do one thing, but do that thing well. Both of the options have equal number of placement outcomes. So stay focused, do the things, don't distract yourself. Okay. So quickly summarizing the changes again. Nothing is removed. Whatever used to get covered earlier again gets covered. Some things have moved to recording, but nothing overall in the curriculum gets removed. There is a track on full stack development and backend development in LLD, as well as in the capstone project module. Okay. And a student can only do one specialization live. The recordings of the other specialization, which they didn't do live, will be given to them on the end of the course. Perfect. Cool. So now let me share my screen and let me deep dive over the curriculum, and you can see what is new, what was earlier as well here. So if you see the screen, here I have written the name of the new module, which topics are covered in that particular module, those topics, so that none of you are overwhelmed or anxious that, okay, do we cover this in beginner, or will we cover this? Will we cover this in the beginner as well? Yes, everything will be covered in beginner. You will be also able to see that. And also to avoid anxiety is that, okay, but it was not covered earlier, but have you not removed anything, etc. We are also going to say that, okay, where are those things covered in the intermediate advanced module? Where were those things covered in the intermediate advanced module earlier? Okay, perfect. So let's start with the first thing. For the people who are in intermediate refresher batch, nothing changes. Okay, so see, the same concepts as it is. The concepts of intermediate refresher are going to be covered or were covered earlier in the intermediate refresher module as well. Nothing changes in the intermediate refresher module. This is going to be a 1 month module, exactly same as how it was earlier. Going to the intermediate DSA module, again, no changes here. Each of the concepts that are listed here were covered as it is earlier in the intermediate DSA module as well for 2 months. Neither does the duration changes, neither does the order of class change. No changes there as well. Also for the advanced DSA, again, no changes. Earlier also it was 4 months. Now also it is for 4 months. Now also all of the same concepts are covered. So as I mentioned earlier, nothing changes in the DSA module other than the addition of monthly contests so that people are able to do well in their online assessments that they see in their, that they see in their placement rounds before they probably often go for face-to-face rounds. Okay, so nothing changes till DSA. Everything is as is same. No concept removed, no class added. Now, here the changes start. So earlier, if you would have seen, after the DSA module, there was a module called Computer Science Fundamentals. Also, there was a module called Advanced Language. We have done some changes at this particular part. As we saw from our hiring partners that SQL concepts, especially the advanced SQL concepts, are very important. After the DSA, you all are going to have the SQL module. Okay, this will be a module that will go for around 2 weeks, where we will cover everything that used to be covered in the DBMS module of Scalar earlier. So in Computer Science Fundamentals module earlier, in the intermediate and advanced, there were 3 parts. One was database management systems, second was operating systems, third was computer networks. The DBMS part of that particular curriculum gets completely as is covered in the SQL module. Perfect. Now, so after DSA, you're going to have SQL module. In SQL module, you're going to cover almost everything. Exactly everything that used to be covered in the DBMS module earlier. Now, after this, we are going to have the LLD module. And here, as I mentioned, there are going to be 2 splits. One, there's going to be a split for backend engineers. The second, there's going to be a split for full stack engineers. So let us start with the backend engineer thing. And also keep in mind, there are few things that used to be covered earlier, like advanced language module, operating systems, and computer networks. Now, those concepts, the practical aspects of those concepts and the important aspects of those concepts are going to cover in the backend development module, in the backend development LLD, or in the full stack development LLD. So let us start with what gets covered in backend development LLD. We will start with object-oriented programming. This was exactly how we started with earlier LLD module as well. So we will start with object-oriented programming. Then we will cover multi-threading. Multi-threading earlier used to be covered in the computer science fundamentals operating system module. But now this will be covered in backend development. Why? Because primarily for full stack developer, for a front-end engineer, how you think of concurrency is often different from how a backend engineer thinks of it. Okay. So while the concurrency will also get covered, for example, here in the for the full stack people as well, but for the backend people, it will be covered here. So again, both will have the concurrency, but more practically based upon what kind of an engineer they are, based upon how they're going to encounter concurrency in their day-to-day lives. Okay. So the operating systems part, the practical operating systems part, the important operating system part is going to be covered in backend LLD as well as in the front-end LLD, in the full stack development LLD. Okay. Then we will cover advanced language concepts and popular interview questions. This is also there in both backend development as well as this is also there in full stack development. This is what the earlier advanced language module used to be, but now more smooth and flow, so that we are ensured that, okay, we know the context on what kind of development are you going to go in, and we can cover all of the advanced concepts related to that. So advanced language module is also now a part of the LLD module. Your operating system module is also a part of LLD module, as well as the practical parts of computer networks are also a part of LLD. For a backend engineer also, we're going to talk about how TCP works, how UDP works, how HTTP works, how the layering architecture works. Earlier, these things we used to cover in computer science fundamentals of computer networks. Okay. So here also for front end also, we're going to cover the same things. Perfect. So now let me quickly go into one of these. So let us start with backend development. We will start with object-oriented programming. We will discuss multi-threading. We will discuss advanced language concepts. We will discuss solid design principles. We will discuss design patterns. We will discuss UML diagrams, schema design, how internet works, API design, MVC, LLD, and machine coding case studies. Basically, based upon what we learned from hiring partners, importance on design skills rather than projects, importance on multi-threading, concurrency, importance on SQL. So all of those things get covered in the LLD module for backend. Similarly, for the full stack developer, here we cover advanced HTML and CSS case studies. For example, how to design a nav bar by basic HTML, CSS, JS, right? How to design a carousel, how to, for example, other front-end LLD machine coding case studies you may be having, all of those get covered here. So here we cover HTML, CSS, JavaScript, not just the basic part, but also the advanced parts of them along with the case studies. We discuss JavaScript for web development. We also discuss advanced JavaScript concepts like OOP in terms of JavaScript, OOP or concurrency in terms of JavaScript. We discuss front-end design patterns. We discuss how, again, internet works as a full stack engineer needs to see them. What are the different HTTP methods, etc., etc. We will discuss API design. We will discuss front-end, LLD, and machine coding case studies. If you're applying for a front-end engineer or if you're applying for a full stack engineer, often you might be asked LLD and machine coding case studies from that particular perspective. So they will be covered. Because you're a full stack engineer, you don't need to know the front end part. You also need to know the back end design part as well. So the back end design also is going to be covered. If you will see here, mostly what is going to be covered in the back end part of the LLD module now was covered in the LLD part earlier, or was covered in the advanced language part earlier, or was covered in the computer science fundamentals part earlier. But what we are going to cover in full stack development, because we have learned that full stack developer is also equally important, there are a lot of new additions. For example, we never used to cover advanced HTML and CSS case studies earlier. We didn't cover front-end design patterns. We did not used to cover front-end LLD and machine coding case studies. We did not cover back-end design in terms of a front-end engineer perspective. So all of these things are new additions. Okay, so you're going to see a lot of additions here in the full stack development part of LLD. Perfect. Then we move to HLD. By the way, this LLD is going to be for 2.5 months. So most of the times we feel that an intermediate or advanced person, most of the times they are going to get only till LLD in their interviews. So if you see, for example, someone who is an advanced student, they will spend 4 months in their advanced TSA module, around half month in the SQL module, and 2.5 months here. So 4.5, 5, and 7. Probably they should be ready for interviews in 7 months or so. Okay, for an intermediate student, they may spend around 2 months more preparing for intermediate basics of problem solving, etc. And they will also be placement ready in around 9 months, right? So basically 2 months here, 2 plus 4, 6, 6.5, 7, and 9. So most of the people we see only get asked the LLD kind of interviews. HLD are lesser, okay, especially for most of the students in most of the companies. So we think that most of the people will be interview ready in around 8 to 9 months. Okay. After the covering of LLD module, we are going to cover the HLD module. HLD module remains as is like earlier. Nothing changes, nothing gets added. The same curriculum that used to be there earlier is also there now. Okay, no changes. It's going to be a 1.5 month module as it was earlier. Now comes the second change that you have in the capstone project module. As I mentioned earlier, in capstone project, the focus is to talk about more advanced concept, build technical comprehensive projects, show you technical complexities, so that you are already, you feel confident working upon advanced real world projects. Here also we're going to have a split. We're going to have a split for backend. We are also going to have a split for full stack. In backend development, you will learn things like unit testing, ORM, deployment, Git, Spring Boot. You will be also covering interview questions that are asked related to frameworks. Some companies, for example, will ask you Spring Boot related questions. They will ask you that, for example, how does controllers work in Spring Boot? Or what are the different types of controllers that are there in Spring Boot? How to do many-to-many mapping in Hibernate? Okay, they will ask you questions related to ORM or projects. So we will be covering them here, as well as I mentioned earlier, advanced capstone project, allowing you to build something that is technically comprehensive, that involves, for example, microservices, that will involve implementing payment API, implementing authentication, something like that. Also, there is going to be another track for full stack developer. We are going to cover many things that are common, right? We are going to cover Git also. Git is common. Git needs to be known by almost every engineer. We are going to cover deployment strategies. But other full stack development stuff will also be here. For example, covering React, covering Redux, covering testing in terms of, how will you test a front end? Okay, covering MongoDB, covering Node.js, covering Express.js, and also a technically comprehensive capstone project that is going to be a part. A nitpick for the backend engineers, in the class, we are going to cover the things in Spring Boot and Java, but the recordings of the same in Python using the Django framework. So, in the class, the language that is going to be there is going to be Java. The framework that is going to be used is going to be Spring Boot. In the recordings, we will also add the recordings for the language being Python and the framework being Django. So that's also going to be there. Assignments you're going to see for both the languages. There will be assignments for Java as well as there will be assignments for Python, because these are the two primary languages that we see our students in. And even more important than that, these are the two most important languages that we see in our hiring partners. Okay, almost like 68% of the companies say that, okay, I mean, a Java specific skill they use in their own jobs, I mean, they use in their current projects, and almost like 20, 25, 30% of them say about Python. So we feel that if a person has learned these things in Java or Python, they will be very well ready, or they will be able to get a lot of access to career opportunities via Scalar, and this will help them in their career. Okay. But almost many of these concepts are going to be language agnostic as well. So in case you want to do it in your own language, probably you can do it. Our TAs will be more than happy to help you with that. But we will still recommend to do it in one of these languages, because this enables you to get access to a lot of our hiring partners. After this, the last thing, the electives remain same. You're going to have three electives. You're going to have DSA for competitive programming, again the same. You're going to have product management for engineers, again the same. There is one small change here. Earlier, data engineering was also a part of the core curriculum. But now, so I mean, earlier data engineering, because it was a part of the core curriculum, people had to choose either between project or between data engineering. They could only do one of them, right? But now we have made data engineering an elective. So everyone can do data engineering as well as a part of their elective. Just to be clear, a person can do any number of electives as they want live. So, for example, you may want to start with DSA for competitive programming. So, you take DSA for competitive programming elective this month. The next time, when you have to choose an elective, you choose product management elective. Then you also choose data engineering elective. Any student can do any number of electives, no restriction on that, live. But these tracks, only one of these tracks you can do live. The other one, recording will be added to you once the core curriculum completes. So once this part of the course completes, the recording of the other module will be added to your batch. Okay, so talking about the changes of Capstone project, again, you will see that earlier we did not cover interview questions related to framework, ORM, etc. We are covering them here. Earlier, we did not build that technically comprehensive Capstone project. We are doing that here, both for backend as well as for full stack. Okay, so quickly summarizing the changes from the beginning. Nothing changes till DSA module. One enhancement, and that enhancement is addition of regular scheduled contests every month. Okay, so that you all are accustomed with the timed coding environments. Cool. Next change, computer science fundamentals, sorry, advanced language module, which used to be coming earlier after advanced DSA, is now a part of backend development or is a part of full stack development. Okay, so there we can teach you those concepts with having more context about what kind of an engineer you are, where you are trying to specialize into, so we can go into advanced concepts accordingly. Nothing changes here, just that we have merged that into LLD when we have more context about you. Okay, so earlier after DSA, advanced language used to come. Language module is now a part of LLD. Perfect. After that, computer science fundamentals used to come, and in computer science fundamentals, we started with DBMS. The DBMS module remains as is and has just been renamed to SQL module, because SQL concepts, the practical concepts, are more important as per our hiring partners, as well as because of the need of practicality from our students. So the DBMS module has been renamed to SQL module and will be covered to exactly same depth as it used to be covered earlier. Okay. After that, earlier in the computer science fundamentals module, we used to cover operating systems and computer networks. The concurrency parts of operating system are covered in the LLD, where we will be able to cover them in more practical, in more contextual way. And the computer networks part will be covered also in the LLD. I mean, almost when we go to the practical aspects of LLD, right? Where we will discuss how TCP works, how HTTP works, how UDP works, etc., etc. More practical. The theoretical part of computer networks and operating systems will be given as recordings. Perfect. Then earlier LLD used to come after computer science fundamentals. Earlier used to have LLD. LLD, the change is it has been split into backend development and full stack development. Earlier we did not have full stack development, right? So you will see a lot of new additions coming up here. The backend development remains more or less the same. We have just moved some parts from the project building into the LLD part because they were more common for the machine coding interviews that used to come. For example, we used to see API design and MVC questions get asked in the machine coding round. So we have moved them earlier to ensure that most of our students are ready for placements, are able to do well in the placements as soon as the LLD module ends. Okay. After LLD, we have HLD. No changes. Everything remains same. Then we have project module. And what is the changes in the project? Two changes. One, the data engineering, which earlier used to be a track, has now been moved to an elective. Now every student can do data engineering elective. So I mean, if everyone is interested in data engineering, you can feel free to do that. Other than that, in Capstone project, now we have two tracks that enables us to cover things to more technically comprehensive level. One is a backend development track, and another is a full stack development track. So we hope with this changes in the curriculum, our students will also be able to do very well for, for full stack developer roles. They will also be able to do much better in the interviews based upon the practical case studies, etc., that have been added. And they will also not feel much overwhelmed or a lot of theory coming up because of the computer science fundamentals getting changed. Just completing it. Nothing changes in the elective. Earlier there were two electives. They are remain same as is. Just one new elective is added, which is data engineering, because now it is not a track of the project building module. Okay. Cool. So I hope this excites all of you. I hope you all are excited with the changes that are coming in this particular curriculum. Again, just repeating, it is for your benefit to enable almost every one of you to be placement ready as soon as possible, to enable almost every one of you to learn as much concepts as possible of the scalar curriculum to do much better in your jobs. So over the coming few weeks, you will be seeing the changes made in the curriculum being reflected on your dashboards. I do know many of you might have many questions, you might have many anxieties, and we are more than happy to talk about them, to answer your doubts, to answer whatever questions you have. Okay. Uh, Eventually, we succeed only if you succeed, right? And we want our students to be with us in this journey, in this curriculum enhancement, in this curriculum update. So, what we're going to do is we're going to send a Typeform link also along with this video. If you have any questions, if you have any anxieties, if you have any concerns with respect to this change, if you want us to deep dive of anything, we are more than happy to answer those. Please put any question that you have in the Typeform link that we are attaching, and we'll be more than happy to come back to you to answer those questions. Okay. So yeah, that's all about the curriculum change. I hope you are excited with this and you're excited to have the journey ahead on this particular towards this journey of becoming a much better software engineer. Uh, so yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you. Bye bye.